Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Captain Candice Priebenow. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of Playford College from Elizabeth, South Australia. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please be seated if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private James Whitson Ainslie Agnew. James Agnew was born on the 3rd of August 1898 in Glasgow, Scotland. He came to Australia when he was 18 months old with his Scottish father, Dr. James Francis Agnew, and his Australian-born mother, Dunbar Agnew. One of 4 children born to the couple, he received his education at the Scotch Preparatory School in Melbourne. Agnew was a talented student, graduating as the dux of his school with honours in history and English. In 1913, he won a resident entrance scholarship to Melbourne University's Ormond College. Agnew was in the second year of his arts degree when he enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 30th of July, 1915. Agnew was assigned to the Army Medical Corps and sailed with the Special Reinforcements in March 1916 aboard the hospital ship Karula, and he reached Egypt in late April and was transferred to the 12th Field Ambulance, becoming a stretcher bearer. In June, he sailed to Marseille in France and joined his unit on the Western Front. Agnew first saw action with his unit at Pozières in August 1916. The enemy held the high ground surrounding the village of Pozières, which gave them the distinct advantage, allowing them to launch devastating attacks on Allied lines. In a letter home to his family, Agnew described the fighting conditions. The weight of artillery fire concentrated on this section alone is almost incredible, and whole villages and woods have been razed to the ground. After 42 days of fighting and more than 19 separate attacks, Allied casualties totalled more than 22,000 men. This was Private Agnew's introduction to the Western Front. In 1917, Agnew's unit saw service at Bullecourt and Mézines, where casualties were similarly appalling. By September, plans were well underway to attack German defensive positions at Polygon Wood. Polygon Wood was a significant landmark on the Ypres salient and an essential part of Allied attempts to take Passchendaele Ridge. By 1917, the wood had been reduced to burnt stumps. German forces had fortified the area with concrete blockhouses, barbed wire, and an observation post, making Polygon Wood a treacherous target for advancing troops. The attack was launched on the 26th of September, and despite heavy resistance, Allied troops were able to secure their objectives and consolidate the line within days. This success was not without cost, however. By the end of the battle, Allied casualties amounted to a staggering 20,000 killed, wounded, or taken prisoner. Agnew was carrying the wounded from the battlefield at Polygon Wood behind the lines at Ypres on the 29th of September. He was returning from a dressing station with his friend, Private Anderson, when a shell burst on their path, killing Agnew instantly and severely wounding Anderson. A letter from one of his comrades gave further details. Before Private Agnew could be carried to the dressing station, a medical officer rushed to his assistance, but he had already breathed his last. Poor fellow. That night, we laid him on a stretcher, and the next morning, 5 of his pals and myself carried the last of our beloved comrade out of the danger zone, and then by ambulance to a soldier's cemetery. A deep sigh could be heard from all as we saw the last of our dearly loved and missed comrade. Before his son's death, Agnew's father was determined to offer his services as a doctor in the medical corps. In 1917, before leaving for service on the Western Front, he was interviewed by the Richmond Guardian saying, "I had looked forward to again seeing my son. But now, alas, I can only go forward, hoping to be of assistance to someone else's son." Private James Whitson Ainslie Agnew was laid to rest at Listenhurst Military Cemetery, near where he fell, aged 24. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private James Whitson Ainslie Agnew, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old,
as we that are left grow old. Age shall not worry them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.